So this is a video that I have been meaning to make, and I never knew that I needed to make a video of it because, for the most part, I have moved on, or at least I've been trying to tell myself that. But has been something that this was a friendship dynamic that really shaped the way I looked at the world as I came into adulthood. Just the way it shaped how I talk to people, how I viewed friendships, and it also in many ways shaped the way I've tried to work and heal on myself. And this was a friendship that I had this was during my formative years. I believe I met her in fourth grade. And I think literally since every year after that, because I went to the same school from kindergarten to 12th grade, we were in the same class section. Maybe there were a year or two where we weren't, but for the most part we were in the same class section. And I also remember in 7th grade we were in the same class section as well. I'm just kind of being redundant right now, but and I remember really wanting to be friends with her, but there was a part of her that at least I felt from her end that she was kind of embarrassed to be associated with me or talk to me and all of that good stuff, until we entered 8th grade, where we actually became pretty close, and we would go to each other's houses, hang out almost every day, talk to each other on the phone almost every night. And there was a part of me that also felt like the reason why we were able to become as close as we did during that year was because there was certain there was just academic benefits that she was getting from me, and maybe vice versa, but I just really remember it being kind of a little one-sided when it came to who was benefiting more from the friendship than the other. That was also kind of where I internalized that I was that ugly fat friend, because I remember I was in a trio with her and another girl. The other person, I'm not really gonna get into her, but me and her were still pretty close to this day. And it was during a time where a lot of people were dating and getting to know their sexuality, and I was always kind of that fifth wheel. And I say fifth wheel because, mind you, I was in a trio friendship. And then we entered into high school. We were still pretty close, but things were rocky. We were kind of back and forth, and a lot of the friendship was kind of just really harmful to me, because I felt in any way, the way she kind of treated me, I was her punching bag. She would kind of just speak to me any type of way, and it was kind of reckless. But I also wasn't in a position where I was able to really defend myself, because I did struggle with self-esteem and self-worth issues, and in a way she knew that, and she kind of preyed off of that. She used to really make fun of the fact that I was overweight. Sometimes it was overt, sometimes it was covert, but it was there. I was kind of known to be the friend where she was it kind of made it feel that I was that pity friend. She the way the friendship was kind of framed, it was from her end, it was oh, you're lucky to be friends with me. That's kind of how I felt. And I think it was roughly around the time when we were senior year of high school, and I think we had a big falling apart, a senior year of high school. I think it was a few months before graduation. We had a big falling apart, and I think I guess I was throwing shade. We were both throwing shade. That's what teenage girls do. And I remember when she was throwing shade at me. But that's the thing, I think this will kind of tie into how I was also treated throughout high school. Anytime we had some type of conflict, she would share it with a lot of people and kind of frame me to be a really bad person. So it kind of made other people kind of go against me in a way, because she was also someone who had was also had a higher social hierarchy, or whatever you would say, that. So a lot of she was very vocal about how she would feel, whether she was happy, mad, or sad. How other people interpreted it, honestly, I don't know, but I guess from my end, the way I interpreted it was that it was easy for her to kind of pin people against me, even though I kind of saw it but kind of didn't. But she would be really vocal, she would kind of and then this kind of now ties into senior year of high school. After we had a little falling apart, she was really abrasive and very loud about it, and she would literally humiliate me in class in front of other people. It was pretty traumatizing, I would say, to the best. And so we haven't spoke for the rest of senior year. I think like we had that falling apart in like March or something. Like I remember this girl, she was literally yelling at me. Like this is what happens when you have really good long-term memory. But I remember like I think I was late to something, and then she was like she was a leadership role in that thing, that like an organization that we were part of, which I can understand like your frustration, but this girl was literally yelling at me while eating my food. Yeah, literally. And that really also screwed my mind. This was like right when we had that falling apart, and then things started trickling on when I told you like that she started humiliating me and all that good stuff. And I also, my senior, this was a few weeks before graduation, I ended up breaking my foot, so I didn't show up for like the rest of the class festivities. I can't pronounce that word today, I guess, but like celebrations. And I remember when I did show up to graduation, she was kind of being like trying to talk to me again, and I was just like, no. Like my mind already was just like, I don't want to continue having a friendship with you after we graduate. So like when she was still kind of like being nice, because I can tell like that's when she stopped being angry. And then like me and her, we had like a very hot and cold friendship. Like whenever she's mad and whenever she wouldn't be mad, it would be like on her terms whether or not the friendship could resume. And so, yeah, graduation day happened. She was trying to be more receptive. She was trying to like talk to me. And then I was kind of just like blocking it out. I was just like, my head was not in it anymore. And I think I remember her like trying to call me throughout the summer like a few times. And I didn't respond because I was checked out of that friendship. I was just like, I do not want you in my life anymore. So years went by. I went to a women's college, and I like made friends, but I didn't make any lasting friendships because of like that situation. Like I was literally traumatized from that one friendship dynamic alone, that I started to look at other women the same way. I used to think that literally everyone who wanted to be my friend was going to hurt me or humiliate me or harm me, or just see me as that less than friend. And another thing that I would say that tied to this too, I've been kind of a little bit having a few dreams about it too lately. So I know this is time for me to like finally release it. But I also, I remember I was like in another like friendship group kind of, with like a few other girls. You know, it was a bit more mellow. They weren't like as like abrasive with me, but I was also kind of seen as a friend that they could poke fun at, that they liked, you know, giving a little, they like teasing me here and there. Like I was kind of the laughing stock of that friendship. And they kind of just, I feel like it was also like they were friends with me out of pity. Like I used to like sit with them at lunch and during like lunch breaks, anytime we would like share class together. Like we shared similar senses of humor with that friendship group, and then the friend that I was just talking about. So that's kind of like what held us together. Like that was like that common denominator. But even in that friendship group that I was kind of in but kind of not in, because even within that friendship group, like they had like their own like group chat, their own dynamic that I just wasn't a part of. But they still talked to me. They were still pretty like nice. But they also kind of saw me as like that weird friend that we're just like, okay, let's just take her in, like she has no one else to talk to or whatever. Like it kind of gave off that vibe. So kind of now going into college, it just really fucked me up, just the way I looked at friends. And I was very reluctant to make new friends. Like when I was in college, I really stayed to myself. Honestly, if it wasn't for work study or being in class, I was just in my room. Like I just wasn't, it was a really depressive time in my life. Like I just wasn't open to really being friends with other people. And then when people would try to befriend me, I would push them away because I was just really fucking scared just to make friends. And obviously because I didn't really, you know, sustain any long-term friendships from college, now this kind of like trickled into like, okay, now I'm into real adulthood. And even despite people from college trying to reach out to me, like I was just in a really depressive state, so I did not reach back out. So that led to me, you know, being really isolated in my early to mid 20s. Like I worked from home. I worked as a teacher and a tutor. So during that time when I was really working from home, I was living in suburban New England. So Imagine that. So how it was very isolating, so I didn't really connect with people that much, and the people that I was living with at the time, they were working a lot, so I wasn't really around. So like literally I was in a big home to myself most of the time. And when I went into teaching, it was great because there was less isolation, because now I was working in person again, and I was able to acquaint myself some really cool people who I talked to here and there. But for the most part, I didn't really make any like established friendships or anything, and I've really allowed my worth to kind of be dimmed by that a little bit, because I would always be self-conscious about how I would talk to people. I would always feel like I just can't make friends or whatever. I think it was just really how my formative years really shaped the way I looked at connection, and how it kind of hindered me from making connections. And I guess to really talk about that friend that I mentioned earlier that I known since elementary school until like we graduated high school. I felt like a lot when I went on like a very introspective self-discovery journey. I felt like at first a lot of it really centered around the dynamic that I had with her, and things that I felt like I needed to work on and heal from, because it just really shattered me to the core. And there was a part of me that felt like my healing was dependent on her. And it's been almost about a decade since I've seen her. And there was a part of me that always felt like if I can face her or see her or talk to her again, then that will be the end or the epitome or the peak of my healing journey. And there was a part of me that was still subconsciously attaching myself and my worth to her, and how I could possibly interact with her if I see her in the future. Because mind you, she's still friends with someone that I'm friends with. But it really fucked me up. Like, but I already said that. I think I just lost my train of thought. But honestly, I think this was the time for me to share it, the time for me to finally release it. And this is me giving myself permission to not be afraid of what I think that's the wrong phrasing, but to not, rely on the thought of her, or rely on an old friendship dynamic that I had as an adolescent to kind of continue shaping the way I look at the world now, and to not necessarily think that whatever hypothetical encounter that I have with her will define everything. And I felt like a lot of how I framed forgiveness was how I looked at her, and I framed a lot of like my forgiveness journey, because I have a list of people that I've like mentioned in my other videos, but I felt like a lot of like my forgiveness journey was shaped around like her. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I think me making this video is me finally giving myself permission to let it go, and also kind of see for what it was, and just to speak my truth to how I felt like it shaped me during my adult years so far. And I don't necessarily have to look at my own healing or my own self-worth from the frame of that friendship or interacting with her or whatever. I think she's doing great now. I don't know really what she's up to. But honestly, the only thing I could do is just wish her the best, wish myself the best, because honestly, I'm the one that I need to be focusing on. But I finally addressed it, and I finally let this out, because a lot of this stuff honestly has been living in my head rent free almost every day since. I know that's a little like, I'm someone that has really good long-term memory, so it's a blessing and a curse, and in many ways it worked as a curse in my life. But yeah.